and enjoy the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Login VSI Summit. We're excited to be able to provide this for you. We really were pushing to get face-to-face again, but alas, Delta has kiboshed that idea, and we'll do virtual this time, but we do look forward to seeing you face-to-face in the near future. My name is Michael Kent. I'm the CTO for Login VSI, and thank you for taking your time to be here today. We're going to talk about the role of EUX in digital transformation. Traditionally, IT staff talk in terms of tactical or operational problems. Even here at Login VSI, we often present our use cases with the perspective of immediate or near-term solutions. And while it's important to address these technical and operational needs, as the saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Today, I wanted to look at these same problems from a more strategic view and look at how our use cases and testing in general can help you enable digital transformation initiatives and businesses more strategically throughout their life cycle. These are our 5 primary use cases: VDI planning. We talk about migration, cloud, VDI, DAS, etc. End user compute change testing, end user experience, unplanned changes, what happens when a switch blows or what have you, and then SLA verification and how important that is going to be as we move to this cloudy world. Digital transformation has been a top line item for every IT organization, every CIO for the last 10 years. You've seen it in your life, right? Some of the most prevalent examples are analytics. How do I get data out of file folders and filing cabinets and into a database where I can generate reports that are meaningful? Data marting, data cubing, business process automation, right? How do I go from quotes to cash in an efficient way? Cloud computing, this is the big one, right? We've heard about cloud for a decade, and everyone's been trying to figure out how to tap into that cloud for easily that decade. I think what we heard from some of the vendors, including Nutanix, is that's more accessible now than ever, right? You're finally able to get cloud more on your terms, and that's important and will be important going forward. Information portals, your HR systems, your benefits, your onboarding, these kind of things. And let's not forget the rise in all of the very well AI-driven email marketing campaigns that make it sound like they're your best buddy, and it's a robot on the back end sequencing you with different emails to try to get you closer and deeper qualified in their system. Right? These are concepts of digital transformation, and what we really want to talk about is what does end user experience mean in these, right? If we look at some of the key technology initiatives, cybersecurity, we've seen this with the rise of ransomware, right? Hitting some of the biggest organizations out there. Data center modernization. Everyone's asking, can we get this to cloud? I want to get rid of the data center business. I'm not a facilities manager. My guys are IT guys. I don't want them negotiating contracts, right? We see a lot of that, even in federal. User experience in general. I need to make sure my users are happy and productive. Another thing that the pandemic highlighted was just how working from home can really both mentally and physically exhaust your user population. And then when you throw on top of that poor application performance or desktop performance, it really weighs on them. They lose productivity, and lost productivity is lost dollars to the business, right? I don't know an IT organization that's isn't being asked do more with less, save us some money, optimize your cost. And they have a lot of words that they throw around to kind of quantify that, but it's the same, do more with less. And then finally, governance, risk, and compliance, right? We need to be able to move, and we need to be able to move fast with 0-day. How can we do that and still maintain a low level of risk and the right compliances? If we have to blow away our change control that is ISO certified because 0-day is threatening to take out 2,000 of our desktops, that's a big deal. And how do these play against each other? We'll talk a little bit about that. The pandemic has definitely forced IT executives and teams to accelerate these digital transformation efforts and support major changes in where and how people work and how to mitigate those negative impacts of not just ransomware and threats, but change and really economic downturn, right? Can we be more flexible? Can we meet people where they need to be? And is IT a force for that change, or are they holding us back? Organizations are scrambling to get their laptops, their SaaS apps, their remote connections, their cloud workspaces, and all of this increase as their remote workers increase. So as we look at these use cases, we're going to focus on customer experience and how it makes it essential for IT executives to really elevate their role in IT. Again, we know tactically what we can do with testing. We've seen how we can save some of this money, optimize some of our environments, but can we really be a force for change? As we speak to our IT leadership and our business leadership, can we let them know that we have the capability to honor your end user as you charge ahead with cloud migration, as you charge ahead with app modernization, et cetera? That's what we really want to talk about today. So the first use case we are going to go through is VDI planning. VDI planning is probably the easiest to map to digital transformation, delivering apps and workspaces to meet this work from anywhere world. We saw Blair presented a slide, the shift left, right, where we talk about pre-production. What I wanted to do is explode that a bit, right? Get a little bit more detail and show you what is in this login enterprise application stack that we have and how we look at the world and how we think testing can help you get to and through these digital transformation initiatives. Using that testing in day zero, when we're designing these systems, right, we can design them for the capacity and the capability that our end user needs. And we can design that, whether that be on-prem hybrid, Azure Edge, AWS, whether it's Nutanix on, Citrix on, GCP, premise, what have you. We can use our end-to-end testing to understand what that user experience is going to be like as we design these systems and weave in GRC compliance, weave in security, weave in yet another antivirus engine, et cetera, and understand what that's going to do before we commit to building this infrastructure. We then go into day one where we build the infrastructure and people are waiting to move in. Pre-change validation, HA and DR testing, right? Something that's often forgot about that EUC testing is all about as well, right? If someone has an issue, if we lose a server, what does that do to my environment? What expectation can I set with my business? And how do we get out of that? Can I quickly swing them over to another instance? And what will their performance be? Does it take them 15 minutes before the boot storm settles and they're ready to go? You need to be able to present this to your leadership and say, we have thought this through. We know what it's going to be like. We don't have to crawl. We can walk. And in some degrees, we can run and finally deliver on this long list of digital transformation initiatives that have been building up since before the pandemic started. Okay, VDI migration. We all know that cloud migration is the top digital transformation initiative on every IT organization's list. We also know that it's hard, both technically and culturally. EUX becomes the great equator. Will you run your workspace in the cloud? How? Let's see, let's compare. How fast can we go? How fast can we migrate those users? Well, you can migrate those users as fast as your end user experience tolerances allow. If you want to log in 11 seconds, well, we know because we can measure it and we can monitor it. So that as you load that system, you know when you have to back off and re-articulate scale. You have the tooling and the capability now to test those different instance types, to look at this and understand what's happening. So you can move fast knowing that you have a protection in place, that you have something watching on behalf of your end user to let you know when that experience drops. It just went to 12 seconds. We need to slow down. We need to add some servers. We added servers. It's not getting better. Maybe we scale out and scale up. And also having a tool set that lets you address these tests, find the right instance types, find the right answers, whether it's increasing your IOPS on FSLogix or switching your instance type from a DS4 to a DS3v2 with a different RAM configuration. These are things that will allow you to move fast because you have the tooling and you have the capability to answer these questions and still protect that end user experience. You can move confidently into the future. End user experience testing really facilitates that fast, confident move to the cloud and delivers on that huge initiative. I need you to use more cloud. Can you move this stack? Can you move this chunk? Can you give me a win so that when the CIO goes into the board, he has something to say that he's actually got done, right? The next up is EUC testing. EUC testing really ensures that you can move at the speed of business as you protect that end user productivity, optimize your IT spend, leverage cloud if that's what you want to do, and stay current. We know that there's an absolute wave of change coming your way, and overwhelmingly, it's crashing down. So how do we keep up with that? DevOps is really pushing the envelope. We have Windows updates, platform upgrades, hybrid cloud, zero-day changes, and the workspaces where every one of those individual changes meet, right, and potentially collide. So having a system that can validate those changes, whether intentional or unintentional, and answer the question, what happened, when did it start, and more importantly, who is impacted and how. This is the role of EUX as you move forward into these unknown areas of hypervirtualization and cloud and hybrid cloud and edge services and tie-ins to cloud-based authentication mechanisms, et cetera, right? End user experience, when we speak of it generically in terms of digital transformation, it's simply to understand and see the world through the business lines and end users, and to see those technologies through their eyes. Unfortunately, digital transformation really is this concept of applying technology to people and process to make all three more effective. But measuring that EUX rebuilds that social contract with those end users. Right? They feel like they're supported. They feel like you understand them, that when they're hurting, you're hurting, you get it, right? This impacts that business and their ability to get talent and keep talent. No one wants to work on a clunky old database system or an old app that crashes all the time or takes forever, right? It really burns people out. So if we want to attract that talent and keep that talent, CIOs are being pushed to modernize those systems to give a modern feel, and you're being pushed as well. There's a major disconnect between what infrastructure teams and business care about, right? No business user calls in and says, I have a memory buffer problem, right? And they say, I can't do my work. I can't open this application. I can't send an order. And if you don't fix it, I'm going to tell my boss my sales are off because of you, right? And so we want to make sure that we are an agent for change, that they see us as an advocate for these technology systems as we push forward into this digital transformation realm. SLA reporting. It's easy to think of SLA reporting as a remnant of IT management frameworks like ITIL. But as organizations move to the cloud and these hybrid models, holding parties accountable for what they provide is still relevant. To move confidently into this digital transformation era, IT teams need to be able to view and speak the language of their customer. SLA reporting allows these teams to know and evidence the success of these digital transformation initiatives and establish that confidence really to move faster, right? User-centric reporting really helps connect your tier one to your business, right? Users call in, their application can't launch, they keep getting disconnected. There's a delay in their keystrokes. No one ever calls in and says, you know, my CPU is too high. I'm really having a problem with context switches today. Users don't talk about those. They talk about business processes. They talk about, I can't print. Do you see the world the way your end user sees it? And if you don't, how can you move into something new and not understand the people that it's going to affect the most? This is what we talk about when we talk about this digital transformation and really understanding how these different use cases play into that, that ecosystem. We're going to go right back to these 5 use cases and talk through some additional concepts here. So again, as we look at these, as Blair mentioned, we as a company came from load testing, really understand your hardware and how to get the best out of that hardware. But as you move to cloud, you don't have access to some of these things, right? I'm not allowed to put my monitoring agents inside of shared cloud infrastructure, right? So a lot of this testing and a lot of the testing that we've been doing here at Login BSI and Blair has been driving as well is to understand how to find those dark spots, how to test around shared infrastructure and problems that will present themselves as you move into this cloud modernization efforts. If you have an application and you change the core of that application, it goes from a thick client application to a web application, the business processes don't really change, right? I still need to get an order in the system, and you can still get timing on those. So as your CIO or your IT manager comes to you and says, we need to move faster, you can count on having testing deliver that speed for you. As DevOps and every individual change is smaller and more frequent, you can keep up with that tide. And if you couple that with some automation, you really will get some ability to keep up with speed of business. Right? And I have went through my slides in record time. And so we have some time left over. I will yield it back to Mark and team. I want to thank you all for attending. We're really hoping you have a safe and productive rest of 2021, and really excited at the possibility of seeing you face to face in 2022, either directly or at our next summit.
Man, thanks, Michael. That was awesome. We actually have a participant that's asking if they can get a copy of the slides, and I'm sure we can make that happen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. You mentioned a couple of things that really resonate. Number one, user-centric reporting is just something that's it's not really considered today, right? Like you'd mentioned, I&O metrics just don't speak end user kind of language, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The ability to report on those metrics is I think a newer thing and something that's very relevant about reporting about how the entire ecosystem is just running.
Well, you know, and really what we're seeing in some of the trends in the market today is as people come out of the coma, the COVID coma, right, where all budgets shut down and everything happened, most of the digital transformation initiatives are right back on the top of the list. There are a few that are different, and I will guarantee you that protecting against ransomware is the #1 priority. And then to Mark Plettenberg's point, these zero-day vulnerabilities are wreaking havoc on systems, and having a system that can quickly quantify, qualify, and really from an end user perspective, get those out the door. I like to tell the story that, you know, in years of technology, there's plenty of times where I come into an environment where the CPUs are 50% utilized and just humming, but users can't log in. And the converse, right, where your CPUs are running hot, they're bouncing at 98%, your disks are running hot, but your users don't have a problem. And so I say the same thing to everyone. CIOs, when they have a problem, they always go to the IT NOC and they ask the same question: what's happening? Who's impacted? What we want to make sure is that you have that reactively, who's impacted. We have the best ability to tell you who's impacted. But more importantly, as you move forward, right, if you can predict for these businesses and say, you're trying to do this, and I can tell you that application that you delivered, it works. Let's go. We've tested against our infrastructure. We've tested against cloud. We know how to scale, right? That application compatibility matrix that I showed. We know how our operations will be affected. So not only is a move to cloud a big change from one vector, the technology, but it's also a big change culturally. I lose control. How do I know that I'm getting what I pay for? If I have to scale, all the metrics are different, right? We worked with one customer, and the question was, do we do one big 32 gig machine? Do I do two smaller 16 gig machines, or do I do 4 8 gig machines, right?
Yep.
And you read all of the technical specifications and the CPU and the ballooning and all that kind of stuff, and it's all really great sleeping material, right? If I'm really having a hard time, I don't need melatonin. I just grab a specification. But really, what it comes down to is there are so many, as that complex stack we showed. There's so many interdependencies. Understanding what the right answer is really depends on your particular application. If you look at the the AVD sizing page, right, they make it very clear that they can give you some general understanding, but at some point you have to come in as you're planning this move to the cloud. You have to come in with your workload, your footprint, and understand what that means, right?
Okay.
And that's what's really important here.
Yeah, and how do you compare your own device that you have in front of you with AVD, right? What are you seeing there? How do you quantify performance on a physical device
You can't compare
moving to the cloud?
right?
Yeah.
You can't compare CPU.
And let's be honest, the people that are using it don't care. They don't care about your CPU comparison. They don't care if it's AMD Ryzen or whatever. They want to do their work, right? They want to do their work, and you want to be able to evidence upward that you are an advocate. That as IT, what they say about IT is when they do their job right, they're invisible. And when they do it wrong, everything's their fault, right? That's what we know. And so I want to challenge everyone on the call. Don't be invisible. Be the advocate, right? Say, I am a change maker, and we can help you deliver options. Work from home. This was a great example. This was an opportunity for people to shine and say, we can deliver this. We can deliver it fast. We have the infrastructure. People that had VDI deployments sailed through that problem pretty handedly. We have probably the best current solution for zero trust, right? We haven't even talked about that, right? This whole idea of it's no longer behind the castle wall, and now I have to have these secure and compliant, and I have to protect PII data, and I have to do it in a way that someone can use it from Starbucks on the road. This is really a challenge, and that's what we're seeing as well. Be someone that can come in and say, I am an option producing device. When IT can register themselves to the business as an option producing device, and when you can say, hey, business, I understand you have these digital transformation initiatives, and we all know they've stalled, right? I think the statistic is less than 4% of digital transformation initiatives have completed in 10 years, less than 4%. So let's get some of those going, especially the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, and also let's try and be proud of the environments that we are building, right? So what I noticed in a lot of IT admins is like, yeah, we're just doing our job, and the day-to-day we're so busy. There's no sense of pride really in building these environments. So that's reflected in the VDI like a Pro data that we see, where year on year we see the satisfaction on end user computing environments go down, while the maturity of the technology is going up, right? Like
technology gets better and people are less happy, right?
So we should really put a line in the sand and start to measure, because only if we start to measure we can improve ourselves. If we don't measure, what's your starting point? Where's your finish?
Right. And we can prove that we're improving ourselves, right? I mean, it's just it's very clear.
And I think it's also the difference between IT being kind of dumped on, right? Versus IT being tip of the spear, right? Leading change initiatives. Yeah. We're past the point where IT is just an infrastructure delivery mechanism, right? We're past that, right? These systems are too complex. They're deep, they're interwoven, and it's the people that are closest to those systems that understand we're about to do something bad because this database has credit card information in it, and you're exposing it in a way that probably makes it less secure. And the people that are close to that know that because they see these connections and these interdependencies. What we want to do is really, the point of this talk was, let's flip the script, right? Let's really set ourselves up as agents of change and show how we can, through this end user perspective, by really honoring the end user, how we can help companies acquire talent because the applications work and people sail through their work and are happy when they interact with these systems, right? Let's show them that these end user experience really lets the business know, you know, when I have a problem, IT already knows about it, right? They know when I can't upload a spreadsheet, and they understand my business process. They understand that I have to get this in. That's how we generate orders. And then, you know, I have to remote print to a warehouse over here, and that has to work. When the people that are fulfilling the orders are like, oh, I'm having a printing problem again, or whatever, you want to make sure you can say, yeah, it's your Salt Lake facility, right? Yeah, okay, great. I see what the problem is. And I have screenshots. I've already sent it off to tier 2 escalation. They should be calling you any minute, right? You've eliminated a lot of the problem, but more importantly is they feel like, you know, when I call Blair, he knows my pain. He knows what I'm talking about. What he doesn't ask me to do is ping the server. He doesn't ask me to reboot just for the sake of rebooting, you know, these kind of things. I think that's also important. So really the role of EUX in digital transformation is saying that it's not just good from a monitoring perspective, and it's not just good for issue prevention, but take a look at EUX as a change enabler, right? Because we measure our end user experience, we know just how fast we can move before we blow them out of the water. And that was really what I wanted to come across in the presentation.
Yeah, I think you did
Thanks,
well.
man.
And
Thank
interestingly enough, we're at the next session in a couple of minutes. We are going to talk more about EUX, but really from a technical perspective. So we're going to analyze Windows 11 and a few other things based on how can you quantify performance from the end user experience, right? Standpoint.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
and
going to be
it translates, right? It translates over from premise to cloud, and I think that's going to be important in the future.
Yeah.
It's the only way. I really don't care what my CPU is doing in the cloud, right? So
no one does. Yeah.
I don't even know how many I have. I only know if you forget to shut them down. I learned the hard way.
When you get the bill, right? Yeah.
I'm very glad to be still standing here presenting this event after.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for the time, and thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
Michael.
we're going to go to a small advertisement break.